I don't know how good this video is going to turn out, but I got asked to do a basic how-to course on axe repair. The thing that you have to have foremost is you have to have the right equipment. All right, and I'll begin by saying the right equipment consists of this piece of equipment here, which is a linisher, which is basically a 2-inch belt sander with a arm that Gerald Yules put on for me that gives us a center point in the center of the belt. This pivot point is extremely important, all right, because this ensures the radius of the axe. Now, most axes, for example, this Akira has a center point right there already preset. And this axe, which I'm going to redo because of this nice piece out of it, Mike Esch has already put a center point on it. The way you find a center point on an axe is you get a compass, and you do put the compass on the same length on the corners and then in the center. And where those three lines intersect, that technically should be the center of the axe. Okay, it's all about geometry. Believe it or not, you're actually going to have to use this. Once you grind with a linisher or with a 1-inch Makita belt sander, that will put what's called the bevel on the axe. Then what I like to do after that is I'll use a 4-inch sander or a 6-inch grinder and hollow it out. Again, you can use calipers, you can use whatever in behind the axe to make sure that you're getting it uniform at various points back from the edge, 1.5 inches from the edge, 1.75 inches from the edge, etc. To measure the depth in which you're going with it. I'm not that precise, especially with training axes. And then finally, after I've done that, what I'll do is I'll use a Tuatahi axe filing jig that goes into a vise, and use a file, and I'll smooth out or flatten the grinding marks that were done with the linisher or the Makita. All right. Then once I know that I've got the bevel flat and I've got the behind done, I will use a higher grit paper on the 4-inch or the 6-inch sander, more or less to the 4-inch. It's easier to control the 4-inch. And finally, I'll just take a nose sander to it, just to to polish it up really good with some 320. After I've done that, I will use various grades of diamond stones on the edges, on the whole bevel, all right? To take out the file marks, I'll start with the blue DMT, work my way down to the green, and then after I've done that, I will take a Frictionite double aught, and I'll polish up the bevel a bit more, and then I'll cut the edge with or nib the edge, as we like to call it, because the axes themselves, the bevels are flat, all right, and then we put an edge on it. Depending upon what type of wood you're cutting is how strong you want the edge. For example, in Australia, you'll nib it up. If you're cutting woolly butt, you'll nib it up probably a 1/16 of an inch, all right? Whereas, maybe more than an eighth of an inch. Over here in the States, we'll nib it up probably at about a 32nd of an inch. And the nib is about double whatever the angle on the actual axe is. There's various compasses and gauges and things like this that will show the various degrees on the axes, on the bevels themselves, or on the very fine part of the axe. There's, it's all geometry, straight up. You want to make the axe straight. You want the eye of the axe to be straight with the edge of the axe, and you want both sides of the axe to be uniform. So you want, if you're measuring it down the center of the axe, if you want a 14-degree axe, you want it 7 degrees on one side and 7 degrees on the other. If you want a 15-degree axe, you want it 7.5 degrees on one side, 7.5 degrees on the other. It's that precise in order for it to get it good. Now, my father's best axe he ever owned was 14 degrees, but it was 6 degrees on one side, 8 degrees on the other, but the damn thing cut. There are some people who are lucky enough to have that sort of thing happen with axes, but it's better to be geometrically perfect instead of winging it. So you need to measure things. It's someone like me, who I'm not a very skilled axe grinder, I'll sit there and I'll look down the edge of an axe and I'll say, look straight, all right? However, people who are much more learned than me will sit there and they'll get their compasses, they'll get the rulers, they'll get everything else, and they'll make certain that it's straight. And if it's not, then they'll put it on a surface grinder and get it perfectly straight. That's how precise they are. And honestly, those axes tend to cut better than ones like, say, a hack like myself tries to do. But again, the things you need are a belt sander, a angle grinder, some sort of nose sander, and then you need a whole range of diamond stones, a coarse one, a fine one, and a medium one. And then you need a good edging stone like a frictionite, which are still affordable. They're about $300 on eBay. If you can find one, get one, because they're drying up. A Norton is obviously the perfect edging tool. However, those are very few and far between, and they go for up to $1,000. And then once you have those, you've got the right equipment in order to make a racing axe cut. There are a lot of finer points we can discuss about manipulating the edges that I can go about on, but that's something for a later time. This is just something that's general that will hopefully give you a start. Good luck.